Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. UEFA Champions League. The UEFA Champions League is an annual continental club football competition organised by the Union of European Football Associations and contested by top-division European clubs. It is one of the most prestigious tournaments in the world, and the most prestigious club competition in European football, played by the National League champion of each UEFA national association. The UEFA Champions League Final is the most watched annual sporting event worldwide. The final of the 2012-13 tournament had the highest TV ratings to date, drawing 360 million television viewers. Introduced in 1992, the competition replaced the European Champion Clubs Cup, or simply European Cup, which had run since 1955, adding a group stage to the competition and allowing multiple entrants from certain countries. The pre-1992 competition was initially a straight knockout tournament open only to the champion club of each country. During the 1990s, the format was expanded, incorporating a round-robin group stage to include clubs that finished runner-up of some nations' top-level league. While most of Europe's national leagues can still only enter the National League champion, Europe's strongest national leagues now provide up to 4 teams for the competition, and will provide up to 5 teams from the 2015-16 season onwards. Clubs that finish next in line in each nation's top-level league, having not qualified for the UEFA Champions League competition, may be eligible for the next level UEFA Europa League competition. In its present format, the UEFA Champions League begins in mid-July with 3 knockout qualifying rounds and a playoff round. The 10 surviving teams enter the group stage, joining 22 other teams qualified in advance. The 32 teams are drawn into 8 groups of 4 teams, and play each other in a double round-robin system. The 8 group winners and 8 runners-up proceed to the knockout phase that culminates with the final match in May. The winner of the UEFA Champions League qualifies for the UEFA Super Cup and the FIFA Club World Cup. Real Madrid is the most successful club in the competition's history, having won the tournament 12 times, including its first 5 seasons. Spanish clubs have accumulated the highest number of victories, followed by England and Italy. The competition has been won by 22 different clubs, 12 of which have won it more than once. The reigning champions are Real Madrid, who secured their 12th title in the competition after defeating Juventus 4-1 in the 2017 final. Thus, they became the first team in the UEFA Champions League era to successfully defend their title. History. The first pan-European tournament was the Challenge Cup, a competition between clubs in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The Mitropa Cup, a competition modelled after the Challenge Cup, was created in 1927, an idea of Austrian Hugo Meil, and played between Central European clubs. In 1930, the Coupe des Nations, the first attempt to create a cup for national champion clubs of Europe, was played and organised by Swiss club Servette. Held in Geneva, it brought together 10 champions from across the continent. The tournament was won by Újpest of Hungary. Latin European nations came together to form the Latin Cup in 1949. After receiving reports from his journalists over the highly successful Campeonato Sudamericano de Campeones of 1948, Gabriel Hanert, editor of L'Equipe, began proposing the creation of a continent-wide tournament. After Stan Cullis declared Wolverhampton Wanderers champions of the world, following a successful run of friendlies in the 1950s, In particular, a 3-2 friendly victory against Budapest Honvéd. Hanat finally managed to convince UEFA to put into practice such a tournament. It was conceived in Paris in 1955 as the European Champion Clubs Cup. 1955–66 beginnings. The first edition of the European Cup took place during the 1955–56 season. 16 teams participated: Milan, AGF Artis, Anderlecht, Djurgården, Guardia Warsaw, Hibernian, Partizan, PSV Eindhoven, Rapid Wien, Real Madrid, Rot-Weiss Essen, Saarbrücken, Servette, Sporting CP, Stade de Reims, and Voros Labogo. The first European Cup match took place on 4 September 1955, and ended in a 3-3 draw between Sporting CP and Partizan. The first goal in European Cup history was scored by João Baptista Martins of Sporting CP. The inaugural final took place at the Parc des Princes between Stade de Reims and Real Madrid. The Spanish squad came back from behind to win 4-3 thanks to goals from Alfredo Di Stefano and Marquitos, as well as 2 goals from Hector Real. Real Madrid successfully defended the trophy next season in their home stadium, the Santiago Bernabéu, against Fiorentina. After a scoreless first half, Real Madrid scored twice in 6 minutes to defeat the Italians. In 1958, Milan failed to capitalize after going ahead on the scoreline twice, only for Real Madrid to equalize. The final, held in Heysel Stadium, went to extra time, where Francisco Gento scored the game-winning goal to allow Real Madrid to retain the title for the 3rd consecutive season. In a rematch of the first final, Real Madrid faced Stade Reims at the Neckarstadion for the 1958–59 season final, easily winning 2-0. West German side Eintracht Frankfurt became the first non-Latin team to reach the European Cup final. The 1959–60 season finale still holds the record for the most goals scored, but the record is overshadowed by the 7-3 thrashing Eintracht Frankfurt received in Hampden Park, courtesy of 4 goals by Ferenc Puskás and a hat-trick by Alfredo Di Stefano. This was Real Madrid's 5th consecutive title, a record that still stands today. Los Merengues' reign ended in the 1960–61 season, when bitter rivals Barcelona dethroned them in the first round. Barcelona themselves, however, would be defeated in the final by Portuguese side Benfica 3-2 at Wankdorf Stadium. Reinforced by Eusebio, Benfica defeated Real Madrid 5-3 at the Olympic Stadium in Amsterdam, and kept the title for a 2nd consecutive season. Benfica wanted to repeat Real Madrid's successful run of the 1950s after reaching the showpiece event of the 1962–63 European Cup, but a brace from Brazilian-Italian José Altafini at the Wembley Stadium gave the spoils to Milan, making the trophy leave the Iberian Peninsula. For the first time ever, Internazionale beat an aging Real Madrid 3-1 in the Ernst Happel Stadion to win the 1963–64 season and replicate their local rivals' success. The title stayed in the city of Milan for the 3rd year in a row after Inter beat Benfica 1-0 at their home ground, the San Siro. Anthem. The UEFA Champions League anthem, officially titled simply as Champions League, was written by Tony Britton and is an adaptation of George Friedrich Handel's Dr. Priest. UEFA commissioned Britton in 1992 to arrange an anthem, and the piece was performed by London's Royal Philharmonic Orchestra and sung by the Academy of St Martin in the Fields. The chorus contains the three official languages used by UEFA: English, German, and French. The anthem's chorus is played before each UEFA Champions League game, as well as at the beginning and end of television broadcasts of the matches. The complete anthem is about 3 minutes long, and has 2 short verses and the chorus. For the 2009 UEFA Champions League Final in Rome, tenor Andrea Bocelli sang backing lyrics to the Champions League anthem, whilst similarly Juan Diego Flore provided the tenor for the 2010 UEFA Champions League Final. Girl band All Angels performed at the 2011 UEFA Champions League Final. Jonas Kaufmann provided the tenor for 2012 UEFA Champions League Final, whilst David Garrett performed with his violin. The anthem has never been released commercially in its original version. Qualification. As of 2009, the UEFA Champions League begins with a double round-robin group stage of 32 teams, which is preceded by 2 qualification streams for teams that do not receive direct entry to the tournament proper. The 2 streams are divided between teams qualified by virtue of being league champions, and those qualified by virtue of finishing second, fourth in the national championship. The number of teams that each association enters into the UEFA Champions League is based upon the UEFA coefficients of the member associations. These coefficients are generated by the results of clubs representing each association during the previous 5 Champions League and UEFA Europa League, UEFA Cup seasons. The higher an association's coefficient, the more teams represent the association in the Champions League, and the fewer qualification rounds the association's teams must compete in. 5 of the remaining 10 qualifying places are granted to the winners of a 4-round qualifying tournament between the remaining 40 or 39 national champions, within which those champions from associations with higher coefficients receive byes to later rounds. The other 5 are granted to the winners of a 2-round qualifying tournament between the 15 clubs from the associations ranked 1 through 15, which have qualified based upon finishing second, third, or fourth in the respective national league. In addition to sporting criteria, any club must be licensed by its national association to participate in the Champions League. To obtain a license, the club must meet certain stadium, infrastructure, and finance requirements. In 2005-06, Liverpool and Artmedia Bratislava became the first teams to reach the Champions League group stage after playing in all 3 qualifying rounds. In 2008-09, both Bate Borisov and Anorthosis Famagusta achieved the same feat. Real Madrid holds the record for the most consecutive appearances in the group stage, having qualified 19 times in a row. They are followed by Manchester United on 18, and Arsenal on 18. Between 2003 and 2008, no differentiation was made between champions and non-champions in qualification. The 16 top-ranked teams spread across the biggest domestic leagues qualified directly for the tournament group stage. Prior to this, 3 preliminary knockout qualifying rounds whittled down the remaining teams, with different teams starting in different rounds. An exception to the usual European qualification system happened in 2005. After Liverpool won the Champions League the year before, but did not finish in a Champions League qualification place in the Premier League that season, UEFA gave special dispensation for Liverpool to enter the Champions League, giving England 5 qualifiers. UEFA subsequently ruled that the defending champions qualify for the competition the following year regardless of their domestic league placing. However, For those leagues with 4 entrants in the Champions League, this meant that if the Champions League winner fell outside of its domestic league's top 4, it would qualify at the expense of the 4th-place team in the league. Until 2015-16, no association could have more than 4 entrants in the Champions League. In May 2012, Tottenham Hotspur finished 4th in the Premier League, 2 places ahead of Chelsea, but failed to qualify for the 2012-13 Champions League, after Chelsea won the 2012 Champions League Final. Tottenham were demoted to the Europa League for the 2012-13 season. In May 2013, it was decided that, starting from the 2015-16 season, the winners of the previous season's UEFA Europa League would qualify for the UEFA Champions League, entering at least the playoff round, and entering the group stage if the berth reserved for the Champions League title holders was not used. The previous limit of a maximum of 4 teams per association was increased from 4 to 5, meaning that a 4th-placed team from one of the top 3 ranked associations would only have to be moved to the Europa League if both the Champions League and Europa League winners came from that association and both finished outside the top 4 of their domestic league. The top 3 leagues in Europe are allowed to enter 4 teams into the Champions League. Michel Platini, the UEFA president, had proposed taking 1 place from the top 3 leagues and allocating it to the Nations Cup winners. This proposal was rejected in a vote at a UEFA Strategy Council meeting. In the same meeting, however, it was agreed that the 3rd-placed team in the top 3 leagues would receive automatic qualification for the group stage, rather than entry into the 3rd qualifying round, while the 4th-placed team would enter the playoff round for non-champions, guaranteeing an opponent from one of the top 15 leagues in Europe. This was part of Platini's plan to increase the number of teams qualifying directly into the group stage, while simultaneously increasing the number of teams from lower-ranked nations in the group stage. In 2012, Arsène Wenger referred to qualifying for the Champions League by finishing in the top 4 places in the English Premier League as the 4th-place trophy. The phrase was coined after a pre-match conference, when he was questioned about Arsenal's lock of a trophy after exiting the FA Cup. He said, "The first trophy is to finish in the top 4." At Arsenal's 2012 AGM, Wenger was also quoted as saying, "For me there are 5 trophies every season: Premier League, Champions League, the 3rd is to qualify for the Champions League." Tournament. The tournament proper begins with a group stage of 32 teams, divided into 8 groups. Seeding is used whilst making the draw for this stage, whilst teams from the same country may not be drawn into groups together. Each team meets the others in its group home and away in a round-robin format. The winning team and the runners-up from each group then progress to the next round. The 3rd-place team enters the UEFA Europa League. For this stage, the winning team from one group plays against the runners-up from another group, and teams from the same association may not be drawn against each other. From the quarterfinals onwards, the draw is entirely random, without association protection. The tournament uses the away goals rule. If the aggregate score of the 2 games is tied, then the team who scored more goals at their opponent's stadium advances. The group stage is played from September to December, whilst the knockout stage starts in February. The knockout ties are played in a 2-legged format, with the exception of the final. This is typically held in the final 2 weeks of May. Future distribution from 2018-19. In August 2016, UEFA announced changes in the access list of the tournament, driven to avoid the creation of European Super League. The top 4 clubs from the 4 top-ranked national associations will receive guaranteed qualification automatically for the group stage. The Europa League champion also will automatically qualify for the group stage. However, the plan passed by UEFA caused outrage among smaller associations. And after the election of the new UEFA president Alexander Kefren, it is still possible to be amended. Trophy and medals. Each year, the winning team is presented with the European Champion Clubs Cup, the current version of which has been awarded since 1967. Any team that wins the Champions League 3 years in a row or 5 times overall wins the right to retain a full-sized replica of the trophy. 6 clubs have earned this honor: Real Madrid, Ajax, Bayern Munich, Milan, Liverpool, and Barcelona. Since then, instead, the club which wins 3 years in a row or 5 overall receives a commemorative badge to wear permanently on the uniform. The current trophy is tall and made of silver, weighing. It was designed by Jörg Stadelmann, a jeweler from Bern, Switzerland, after the original was given to Real Madrid in 1966 in recognition of their 6 titles to date, and cost 10,000 Swiss francs. As of the 2012-13 season, 40 gold medals are presented to the Champions League winners, and 40 silver medals to the runners-up. Sponsorship. Like the FIFA World Cup, the UEFA Champions League is sponsored by a group of multinational corporations, in contrast to the single main sponsor typically found in national top-flight leagues. When the Champions League was created in 1992, it was decided that a maximum of 8 companies should be allowed to sponsor the event, with each corporation being allocated 4 advertising boards around the perimeter of the pitch, as well as logo placement at pre- and post-match interviews and a certain number of tickets to each match. This, combined with a deal to ensure tournament sponsors were given priority on television advertisements during matches, ensured that each of the tournament's main sponsors was given maximum exposure. From the 2012-13 knockout phase, UEFA used LED advertising hoardings installed in knockout participant stadiums, including the final stage. From the 2015-16 season onwards, UEFA has used such hoardings from the playoff round until the final. The tournament's current main sponsors are: Adidas is a secondary sponsor and supplies the official match ball, the Adidas finale, and referee uniform, as they do for all UEFA competitions. Konami's Pro Evolution Soccer is also a secondary sponsor as the official Champions League video game. Individual clubs may wear jerseys with advertising. However, only one sponsorship is permitted per jersey in addition to that of the kit manufacturer. Then they must remove that logo from their jerseys. For example, when Rangers played French sides Auxerre and Strasbourg in the 1996-97 Champions League and the UEFA Cup, respectively, Rangers players wore the logo of Centre Parcs instead of McEwen's Lager. All-time top scorers. The table below does not include goals scored in the qualification stage of the competition. Bold indicates players active in the competition in the 2017-18 season and their current club. Thank you for watching. Brought to you by WikiVD Documentaries. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.